Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today's vlog is going to be like a semi-Valentine's Day Kindle Unlimited spend the weekend with me kind of thing, and I'm also probably going to read Rebel Witch because I just got that in the mail today and I really want to read it. But it's still kind of romancy. It's a fantasy romance, so we're just going to go with that. And I'm excited to read some of these books just because they've been on my TBR for so long. And they're just I think they're all very different, so that should be interesting as well. So I'm just going to tell you what 4 books I plan on reading in this vlog, and then we'll start with the first one. Credence is the first book I'm going to read by Penelope Douglas. That is the book club book of the month for the local book club that I'm involved in. And then I'm going to try to read Rebel Witch next by Kristen Cicerelli, Savor It by Tara DeWitt, and then The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center. So I did start Credence last night and I read a little bit of it today. And it's basically about this girl who is sent, her name's like Tiernan, I think is how you say it. And she's sent to live with her uncle when her parents both die. And it is her dad's stepbrother. So like, it's not an uncle by blood. He's just an uncle by association. And she doesn't have like any contact with him any other time in her life. Like she knows about him, but him and her dad never got along. Her parents were both famous and they just kind of like, he didn't get along with his brother. So she knew about him, but never really like knew him. And in the will, that is who her parents sent her to because she doesn't turn 18 for another like month or something. So she goes to live with him in the woods, like the mountainous regions of Colorado with his 2 sons, Noah and Caleb. And this book is making me question a lot of things about myself because I don't love a bully romance. I may be changing because I have loved the Zodiac Academy and I do consider that a bully romance. I did not like the Cruel Prince trilogy though, but there was not a lot of romance in that to me. So I think it was just a bully story. But it is like they're not very nice to her. Especially like Caleb and Jake's her uncle. They're not very nice to her. And there's some questionable things that happen, and just read the warnings on this. I know a lot of people probably know about this book already because it's been making its rounds on social media and I think a lot of people have read it. And I thought I knew what it was about, but I definitely didn't. And I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel the more we get into it. I'm about 160 pages in right now. It's like almost 500 page book, I think. But I'm reading it on my Kindle, so I'm not 100% sure how that equates to the physical book. But it is definitely interesting. It's making me question some things about myself because I have not put it down yet. There may be a point where I do. I'm hoping I don't DNF it because I do want to go to book club. But yeah, it's not bothering me as much as I thought it would, which again is why I'm questioning my life choices. But I don't want to give too much away about it, but there's definitely some like themes in it that not everybody would be comfortable with. Let's just say that if you consider the fact that the 3 men in this are technically her relatives, I think you can understand what one of them is. However, the one thing getting me through that is the fact that they're not actually blood related and she didn't grow up with them, so it's not like he was ever a father figure to her or they were like cousin figures to her. They just existed in her life. It's more the fact that it kind of starts off as a why choose that bothers me. And if it gets really violent, I don't know that I'm gonna like that. But we'll see. I will keep you updated on my feelings on it. I'm not really going to talk too much about the plot other than that because you can go online and read that. I don't want to give the spoilers, but I definitely recommend if you feel like you want to read Credence to read some of the themes and tropes and warnings about it. So it starts off with a bang. Let's just put it that way, and it does not slow down. So I'm going to probably just continue reading that for the rest of the night, and we'll see where I get to tomorrow. So I'll talk to you all in the morning. So happy Saturday. I am about 70% of the way through Credence now. I will finish it today. I just don't know when because there are a bunch of videos I want to film because it's the weekend and I have time. Again, I don't know how I know how I feel about this book and I'm questioning why I feel that way because typically a book like this would not appeal to me and I would have probably DNF'd it by now, but it could just be where I am with my mindset right now. I don't know, that it's just like, you know what, there's a bunch of messed up stuff in the world, so I'm just gonna read about a book that's like that. Oh well. I don't know, it hasn't taken it to the point either where it's like too far for me. We did just have a scene that was a little pushing it, but I think that the connection that she has with one of them, which I think is maybe one that she ends up picking, I don't know, there's just something about that connection that, as much as it's kind of toxic, at the same time, like, I feel something for that. So maybe that's why it's holding my attention, but we'll see. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep reading that. I'm gonna do some stuff and then I'm gonna keep reading that, and then I'll come touch base later. I do want to start Rebel Witch today. Hopefully not too late in the day, because it is a little bit longer than I thought it was. But here she is, book of the month version, which is what my first one was anyway. And I'm so excited for this book. So another reason to like want to get through the last 30% of this book so that I can start this one, because it's such a highly anticipated read, and I've been a little sad since I finished Onyx Storm. We'll just say that. So this hopefully will help me get out of that little hole. But all right, I'll touch base with you guys later. Okay, so I finished Credence, and I'm conflicted with my feelings on it, because I liked the love story. Like, there was an actual love story in there, and it was about her like finding people that cared about her and understanding what that feels like and all of that. But there were about 2 scenes that really bothered me, and like the more I think back on it now, I'm just like, I mean, I'm not here to shame anybody and what they choose to do, but I like how it ended. So that kind of redeemed it for me. So that's done. Now I'm gonna read Rebel Witch, and I am absolutely terrified, because I'm more scared to read this book than I was to read Onyx Storm. I have seen a few people read this and love it. They say it's better than Heartless Hunter, and I am very excited for that. I've been waiting for a year, a little bit less than a year, I think like 11 months for this book, and I'm scared, because this is it. I'm more afraid for this than Onyx Storm, because this is it. But we're gonna go for it. We're gonna see how far I can get today. If it's anything like Heartless Hunter, I'm probably, you're not gonna see me till tomorrow, because all I'm gonna do is read. But I will try to stop and update some thoughts. Can't talk too much, just it is a series. I can't talk too much on that, but I'll see you all after I come out of my little world of Gideon and Rune. So talk to you guys later. So here's probably the only update I'm going to be able to give on this. I'm just under 200 pages in, and it's starting part 2. I don't know if there's a part 3. I didn't actually look at the index. Is it even called an index? They don't even have that in the front. There is no table of contents. So I don't know if there's going to be a part 3, but I just hit part 2. So I thought this would be a good time to stop and talk. But the best part about this series, it is like truly enemies to lovers. And the only other series that I've read like this, or this is a duology, but the only other series I've read like this is the Hurricane War series. Like, it's very similar vibes. Like, they're plotting against each other, but they have super strong feelings for each other that are like getting in the way of all of that, because they want to give in to their feelings, and they know that they like love the other person, but they are still enemies, and they still have their own agendas, and they're still plotting against each other. And that is what makes this book so good, and that is what makes the Hurricane Wars and the Monsoon Rising books so good. But the vibes definitely carried over from the first book, and I'm loving that, because I love a good enemies to lovers, but like there's a difference between like they hate each other at the beginning of the book, and then they're like together halfway through it, and then it's fine, and then they never like deceive each other again. And then this book and like Hurricane Wars, when they overcome some differences and they work together, but they're still on their own agendas, and they still have such strong like hate-love feelings for each other. That is what creates the best tension in an enemies to lovers book, and that's what this is. Rune and Gideon have to work together. They kind of want the same thing, but at the same time they don't, and I don't know how that's going to end up working out. So that's kind of where we are right now, but they've called a truce to help each other for a semi-common goal. So that's all I got. I think this is going to be more of like an adventure on the second half of it together, but we'll see how that goes. There's a lot of tension, a lot of like jealousy, a lot of anger. It's just perfect. So I'm going to continue reading. I'm getting through this faster than I thought. It is YA, so it does read faster, or new adult. I'm not sure if it's new adult or YA. It's not really spicy. I know people thought that the first book shouldn't be YA because it was too spicy. I didn't think it was spicy at all, but subjective. So gonna just keep reading, and I probably just won't talk to you guys till tomorrow morning. I don't know if I'll finish this tonight. It is still kind of early. It's only 5:30, and it'll only probably take me a few hours to get through the rest of this book, so it is a possibility. But there's also a possibility that I will just hit a wall at one point and just pass out, so one never knows with my sleeping patterns. So regardless, I will talk to you guys tomorrow and I will update you on where I'm at. It is now Sunday morning and I just finished Rebel Witch. I had about an hour left of reading this morning because I did fall asleep last night. I chose to go to bed, let me put it that way, because it was getting a little bit too emotional for me, and I was like, I know that this last part's going to be rough and I want to be able to fall asleep tonight, so I left like the last 90 pages till this morning. But this was perfect. It was everything I was hoping and more. Like, she did the story so well. I am not the kind of person that tries to figure out what the author's going to do in the next book. I kind of just go into it like it's their story, they're going to tell it how they want. So I didn't dwell too much on like what happened in the previous book. I remembered everything from it. Obviously, it was one of my favorite, if not my favorite book from last year, but this is a high contender so far for my favorite book of the year, and that is coming off of a week and a half after reading Onyx Storm. I don't know which one I enjoyed more, but they're definitely both up there. She ended it so well, and I love that it was a duology and so much happened. This book was more fast moving, I'd say, than the first one, because I think a lot had to happen in it. It was a little bit longer, I think too, just like a little bit longer, but the story was established, the crisis and everything was established, like the whole, like what the war was about and everything, and it just happened very quickly, but it happened, it made sense. It didn't feel rushed, at least to me it didn't feel rushed. Like the way that she told the story and like you coming to the conclusions that Rune's coming to as things are happening, like was what made it so emotional, because you're like, you know, it's what needed to happen, and it was just, I cried this morning, so that was a great way to start my day. But I really did enjoy this book. Highly, highly recommend this duology, and it is just 2 books, so those of you that don't like to start long series, highly, highly, highly recommend. Like, I'm seeing my sister later today, and I want to take both this and Heartless Hunter and just hand them to her and be like, please read these. Just please read these so I can have somebody to talk to about it. So we'll see. I don't know that she will, so I don't know that I'm going to do that, but loved this book. Now we're going to move on to Savor It by Tara DeWitt. And I think I know what this one's about. I'm going to pull up the synopsis. I think it's about like this chef comes to this like town, and this girl is trying to like make her ex jealous or something, and ends up, they enter a competition or something, I think. I could be completely off. I think that's what this is about though, so give me a second. Yeah, so she lives in the coastal town of Spoons, Oregon, not to be confused with Forks, Washington. Has learned to love her small world with the misfit animals on her hobby farm and her friendship with the town's inhabitants. But when her 5-year relationship ends with her ex, town golden boy Ian suddenly gets engaged, Sage needs a win, something that will convince everyone to stop hitting her all the time and put Ian in his place. So during the festival, she needs a partner for this competition. Fisher Lang was a hotshot chef in New York City until the loss of his sister left him numb and grieving, responsible for his teenage niece Indy. When Fisher loses his Michelin star along with his love of cooking, his boss sends him and Indy to Spoons on a much needed summer sabbatical to consult on a restaurant opening. So there's a clash, and I guess something happens where they kiss and it leads to dating rumors, so then they strike a deal. So it's like fake dating, but then also they're going to enter the competition to try to win that because he's a chef. So yeah, I was kind of right with it, so I'm excited to read that. I've only read one other book by Tara DeWitt, and that was Funny Feelings, and I really did like that. I didn't connect with it as much as I would have liked, but the story itself was very sweet and very like wholesome, and I did really enjoy the overall story. And it was something similar too. I think it was like he had a daughter, and they were like really good friends, and then she was part of their life and everything. So I'm assuming it's going to have the similar feels to it, but we'll see. The cover is just absolutely gorgeous though. So looking forward to that. And I will update once I've made it far enough to kind of know what's happening and have some thoughts and feelings. So I just walked around my house for like 5 minutes looking for my Kindle because I left it in the laundry room. Don't ask. I don't know why I took it in there with me in the first place, but anyway, found it. I'm just over 50% of the way through Savor It, and I'm loving it. I love these characters. They are so fun. And our main character, Fisher, came into this town like super grumpy because he's at like a really not great place in his life right now. Like, he lost his Michelin star. His boss is trying to give him another chance, so he's there to like open and consult with the new restaurant that her family's trying to open. He also has his, like, I think she's 16-year-old niece with him because his sister died like a few years ago and left her in his care. So he's trying to figure that out. He's like a 31-year-old man that does not know how to raise a teenage girl, which totally understand that. And then he ends up living next to Sage, who has lived in this town her whole life. And she's the one that had like the bad breakup with her boyfriend of like so many years. And he's like a cop in town and his dad's the mayor. So he's like the golden boy of the town. And she just loves this place and loves everything about it. And just, she wants to help everybody and do like the right thing all the time. So he thinks she's like too goody-goody and he's a little grumpy, but pretty quickly, she starts to turn that around and he starts to really like fall for her and her charm and all of that. And I think he's starting to fall for the town and everything too. And then one day they're out together and she runs into her ex and the new fiance. Basically, they start like fake dating out of that to not only help her save face with the town because everybody feels so bad for her because of what happened, but also to help him win over the townies so they stop like trying to halt the construction of the restaurant that he's trying to open because they're being like small town people. They don't want this big new fancy restaurant in their town and they're complaining about absolutely everything with it. So it's pretty normal small town trope. So it's really cute. There's a lot of little aspects of it. She lives on like this land. It's just like her and then he's actually living at her neighbor's house because they leave for like the whole summer. So he's like renting that house for the summer and they're out in like kind of middle of nowhere and she has a bunch of animals and they're really fun. And Indy, the niece, is really fun, and then she's got like a nephew around her age, so like there's a little bit of a storyline there and it's just really cute. And even like the side characters like her best friend and her brother and all of that, like I really think this is an adorable book and I'm enjoying it. So gonna continue reading. I'm hoping I don't like slump out on the next book because I've been reading a lot of like the last few books have been very romance heavy, but I'm going into like very fantasy heavy books right after this, so I'm trying to enjoy that while I can. So far I'm okay. I'm just getting a little worried because even the fantasy that I just read I think was heavier on romance than I was expecting, which I was fine because I loved it, but the next two fantasies I'm reading are not. So gonna enjoy that while I can. I'm gonna try to get further with this before I have to go to dinner, and then we'll see where I get with it tonight when I get back home. Hey everyone, it is Monday and I finished up Savor It last night. And I just want to read like all of Tara DeWitt's books now. They're just so sweet and I just love her story. Like I was eating it up. I loved the characters. I loved their banter. Like the small amount of time they had to like get to know each other and like fall for each other. And the way that she did that was just really, really sweet and I think really well done. But so it was a lot different than Funny Feelings because in that book, they knew each other for like years when we finally like kind of get our little sneak peek at their life. We learn how they met, but they at that point in the book knew each other for so long. And now we get this story where they literally meet and fall in love over the course of a summer and it's just really sweet. And I think they help each other kind of like heal from some things that they are both dealing with in their lives. And it was just, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited to read some more of her books. So that will be another author I probably add to my like who I want to finish their backlists on. So that was a win. And then I started the rom-commers this morning and I'm about 100 and I don't know, like 60 pages in or something. I'm like flying through it. I love Catherine Center's writing and these characters as well. Like the banter between these two characters is like unmatched. I don't know, it's just hitting so good. It's just like, it's hitting something in my like brain that is making me really happy right now and I'm really enjoying it and I can't wait to like get back into reading it tonight. I do have like a video to like get ready to upload though, so I do have to wait, but I'm excited to continue on reading that. And I do not think this is going to be the final book I read in this vlog because I am a little bit ahead of schedule on when I have to start filming to have my next vlog ready to go. And originally this was just supposed to be like Kindle reads that were romances for Valentine's Day, but then when I got Rebel Witch, I was like, well, it's a romantasy, I can throw it in there. So I thought since I'm ahead of schedule, I'm gonna throw in one more book that is also a romantasy. I would consider a romantasy, and that is Foxglove by Adeline Grace because I needed to read this month anyway because it's on my winter TBR. So am I about to read, is my 5th book for the month about to be a book that's not on my TBR that I chose? Yeah, but I'm cool with it because I still need to read it this month in my mind. I still need to read it this month. So I'm gonna continue on with the rom-commers and it's just making me happy. And there are some like sad themes to it, and I do like that, like the character, which I'm excited because this is actually a prompt on 52 for 52, is a character that breaks the fourth wall, and our main character in this, she does break that fourth wall and kind of like tells you a story. She's like, well, let me explain something before we go any further so you understand my feelings on this. So that's always kind of cool when they talk to you, like they know there's an audience. So they're getting a little bit more into their history and like what happened to them that brought them to this point. And it's like real honest. So that was really cool. That just happened like 2 chapters ago. But so far, I'm like data dumping people's names. I know his name was Charlie. I'm like, Emma, I want to say her name was. Yeah, Emma. So our main character, Emma, is the one that we're like getting the story from. And then she's like been a caretaker for her father because of something that happened when she was younger for the past 10 years. And now her sister's coming home from college, and she was originally supposed to take over for the next 10 years so that Emma can go like live her life and follow her dreams. And that is, she wanted to be a screenwriter, and she does some stuff on the side because her ex from high school is like a manager for screenwriters and like people in Hollywood. And he's been like throwing her like odd jobs every once in a while, and he calls her and he's like, I have this opportunity for you to work with Charlie, I can't remember his full name, but like Charlie whatever, who is like the biggest screenwriter and one of the most successful screenwriters in the business. And she's like, but he doesn't work with anybody, blah 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 blah. And he's like, no, he's writing a rom-com and it sucks, and he needs somebody that knows how to write a rom-com. So she goes to LA to write with him, and her friend, her ex, wasn't completely honest with the situation, so there's like a little bit of animosity originally like between her and Charlie and what's actually going on with the situation and what both of them want out of it. And I don't know, they start to like open up to each other because they do, try to work together, and they start to open up to each other, and they're starting to understand each other a little bit more. And I think it's just really sweet, and it's funny because she is hilarious. Like Emma is freaking hilarious, and Charlie's like accepting that because he's not in it, like he's not that kind of a person, but I think he's just enjoying working and being around somebody that is so open and honest and isn't like trying to, obviously she's trying to like get the experience from him and she wants to be a screenwriter. So she's excited that she's writing a script and writing the screenplay with him. And that will help her obviously in the long run. But at the same time, like she's just openly honest about like how she thinks rom-coms need to be written. And he has clearly no idea what he's doing because of how he wrote the one. And I think he just enjoys that like fresh take on the fact that like she's not afraid to tell him how it is, and she's not going to just bow down and tell him he's wonderful even if what he's writing is crap. So it's really cute. I don't really know there's gonna be much other than that, than them just like working together and opening up to each other and learning how to love, I think, because they're both kind of in a position where she's afraid to open herself up to that because of all of responsibility she has in her life, and he's been hurt before, which we're just kind of now getting more information about, and it's like devastating if it's true what he just said. So I think it's going to be a really sweet book, and I may cry. I've been crying at like every freaking book. That's just my mind right now. I'm just emotionally everywhere. So everything's making me cry. But anyway, I will continue reading this. I may finish it tonight. I may finish it in the morning. Not sure. But just know that if I do finish it tonight and I don't get a chance to update before I head out to work tomorrow morning, I will be starting Foxglove. If not, I won't be starting to this till I get home tomorrow. But either way, you'll get an update. Just know that this is the next book I do plan on going into now. So this is a little bit of an addition because I have some time before I have to start reading the next vlog. So I figured I would try to get another one in so that I got the 5 books that I typically like to put in a vlog in. And I added a little bit more fantasy romance because then Rebel Witch isn't kind of its own little thing. So, all right, I will update when I'm done with the rom-commers. Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. I finished up the rom-commers last night. Is that what I was reading? Yeah, the rom-commers last night, and it was adorable. I loved it. It was so cute. The ending was kind of a stretch for me, but I don't think it took away from the book. Like what happened was kind of like, I didn't love it, but I still really thought that the book was really cute. It was just like hit them with every tragedy that you can think of at the end and then try to wrap it up really quick. That's what it felt like. But I still really enjoyed it. I love Catherine Center's writing, and she does write very emotional romances, so I do appreciate that. They are very clean romances. She writes clean romances, so again, if that's something you like, she's an author to try for that. And then I started Foxglove just this morning. I did not even start this yesterday. I'm on page like 98, so I'm just about 100 pages in, and we're picking up where Belladonna left off, but this book has the chapters go between her and Blythe. So the first book was like all Cigna, and now we're getting a few chapters every now and again. It's mainly Cigna right now, but every once in a while we're getting a chapter that's from Blythe's point of view, and I think that's important for Wisteria because I think Wisteria I think it's going to swap. I think it's going to mainly be about her. So we'll see. I think this is going to set up Wisteria. I don't know what else is going to really happen in this one, but something happened. Someone showed up at the end of Belladonna, and now they're kind of causing a problem for Cigna to get back at Death. And that's kind of the whole point of this book. So we're learning why this person is mad at Death, and we don't really know what their end game is or what they're really trying to do yet at this point, but we know like why the animosity's there. So, and a YA novel, so I'm hoping I'll be able to read through pretty quickly. I probably won't finish this today. I'll finish this up, hopefully finish this up tomorrow. But I'm happy to be back in this world. I do love them as a couple. I like Cigna as a character. And now that we're getting a little bit more of Blythe, not just being like a side character, I think I'm gonna like that too. So that's all I can say right now. It might be all I can say other than some like thoughts and feelings later on, just overall vague ones, but I will update you all tomorrow with where I'm at. And then once I finish this up, we'll close out the vlog. Okay, time to wrap up the vlog. I just finished the final book, so we'll talk about that last. So we started off this vlog with Credence by Penelope Douglas, which is like I don't know that I would consider it like a dark romance. I guess it kind of is, but it's more like a taboo romance, I'd call it. Definitely check up your trigger warnings and kind of get an understanding of what that book is about before going into it. It was a little shocking for me, for someone that doesn't really read a lot of books like that, but at that moment in time, like, I think I was okay with it. There's been times where I probably would have DNF'd that book, but because of the mood I'm in right now and just like where my mind is, and I wouldn't say, I don't know how to describe it without sounding like weird if you know what the book's about, but it was an enjoyable read. The storyline, like the underlying romance storyline, was very good, very well done. I think that I really felt for the main female character as well as one of the males in that, and I think that is why I continued reading it, because I really wanted to know how it ended. But overall, quite the taboo book, high on the spice. You just understand that going in. So thankfully I kind of offset that with some of the other books in this vlog later on, but so I ended up giving that a 4-star. The second book I read in the vlog was Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. I ended up getting this a little bit early because I got it through Book of the Month. So I got it January 31st and read it February 1st into February 2nd because I didn't want this ruined for me, and this is honestly, between this and Onyx Storm, those were my most anticipated books so far this year and possibly all year. There are a few other ones I'm very excited for, but those were the two that I was really had high on my list, and neither of them have disappointed. This is the second book and the final book in the Crimson Moth duology. The first book is The Heartless Hunter and or The Crimson Moth, depending on where you live in the world, and I believe everyone's is going to be called Rebel Witch for the second one. But Witch Hunter, the Crimson Moth is Rune, who is our female main lead's alter ego. So she kind of like was a socialite by night, and she would use what she'd find at these balls and everything to save witches that the witch hunters had captive or were going after. And then Gideon is our main male character, and he's the witch hunter, and he's like the best witch hunter. And the first book is about them, like, you know, kind of using each other because they both had suspicions. Well, she was using him to get information, and then he had suspicions that she was the Crimson Moth. But over that, like, there is a romance that blossoms, but it is truly enemies to lovers, because even into this book, like, they wanted to hate each other because they fundamentally did not agree on a lot of things for 99% of this book. But they really did. There were feelings that they just couldn't overcome. Yeah, it was a lot of back and forth. They were double-crossing each other. Like, you never really knew what was going to happen because they were like, they're plotting against each other the whole time. Both books, they're plotting against each other, but at the same time trying to make it look like they're not. So the only other book series that I have found that has this type of feeling for enemies to lovers is the Hurricane Wars series by Thea Guanzon. That has the same vibes as this, but completely different storyline. So loved this, 5-star read, highly recommend this duology. It's just 2 books, which makes it absolutely wonderful. Then I read Saber It by Tara DeWitt. That was just a sweet, small town romance about a girl who is kind of watching her neighbor's house, which is also rented out during the summer, and this guy comes from New York City with his niece, who's also his goddaughter, who he now has full custody of, because he's having some issues. He's a chef, he's having issues with his career, and he lost a Michelin star, and his boss kind of sent him out there to try to kind of get away from everything, but also help open up a restaurant in that area. And they meet, and he's like, you know, anti-romance, like small towns, so he wants to not think she's charming and think she's fun, but quickly that changes for him, and they develop like a pretty good friendship that eventually turns into more, but there are feelings from pretty much from the start with them. It's very sweet romance about kind of just trying to find your happiness, even though you think you want one thing, maybe that's not actually what in the long run you wanted. So really sweet, very low spice, so that did offset Credence, but I gave that 4.2. And then I read The Rom-Commers by Catherine Senner, which was another very sweet romance. It got a little crazy at the end for me. I thought the ending was a little bit far-fetched, but it was still a very cute overall story. You have a girl who's wanted to be a writer her whole life, but has had to stay at home and take care of her dad, who is just unable to take care of himself. Her mother died previously, so she's a full-time caretaker for her father, and her sister is now just graduating college and is supposed to take over, but Emma doesn't really trust her sister to be able to do what she's done all these years. She doesn't trust that she's not going to like screw up taking care of her father, but then gets this opportunity to go work with her favorite screenwriter in Hollywood. She's an aspiring screenwriter, and still has contact with her ex from high school, who is the manager for a bunch of people in Hollywood, and he keeps getting her these opportunities. So she goes out there because he gets her an opportunity to work with his client, who is her favorite screenwriter, and he's not really on board with it because he doesn't like to write with people, but he tried to write a rom-com for a deal to be able to write it, or like, you know, get another one of his movies created if he wrote the rom-com, and it was just terrible. She read the screenplay and it was absolutely terrible. So eventually, like, he's convinced to work with her, and it's like a close proximity thing because she's living with him out there and they're learning about each other, and their banter is fantastic in this book because they are kind of at each other's throats the whole time, talking about like what he likes to write versus what she likes to write, and he doesn't believe in love because he's been jaded, and she's never really had the chance for love because she's basically her father's full-time caretaker. And it's a really sweet way that, again, that they like, this and Savor It had the same kind of vibes to me, and I had similar feelings between them. It was just a sweet romance where these people didn't know each other and came together in a relatively short amount of time and really depended on each other and had started to have strong feelings for each other and accepted some different things in their life that maybe they wouldn't have. So real sweet, again, low spice. Catherine Senner writes very low spice books. Also a 4.25. Really enjoyed both of those romances. And then I finished up with Foxglove by Adeline Grace, which is the second book in the Belladonna series, and I was a little hesitant about this one because I heard a lot of people loved Belladonna, didn't like this one as much. I enjoyed it. 4-star read for me. Was it my favorite book ever? No, but I love these characters. I love that we've got Blythe and Cigna in this one. It was a split POV for them, and I feel like Cigna's story maybe is a little bit wrapped up, but Blythe is just starting, and I believe Blythe is the main character in the final book, Wisteria. So I'm very excited to get my hands on that. I think the paperback copy comes out in June or July, so I'll be picking that up ASAP to read that when it comes out because I want to know what's going to happen for how she set up the story to go into Wisteria. I think it's going to be really fun, and I enjoyed it. It gave me actually more romance than the first one. I think the first one there was a lot more like enemies and not as much lovers, and then this one was kind of completely the opposite because we're developed and their characters are different. So really liked this. It was basically solving a mystery of what happened to somebody at the end of book 1. So that was like the overall arching story of that, and then somebody else shows up at the end of book 1 that is a big role in this and also will be in the third one. So I can't talk too much about that, but very much enjoyed. I'm excited for Wisteria. And I don't know if I'm going to read Holly. I don't know what it's about, but she has a holiday novella coming out in like September that is part of this, but it's not necessary to read to complete the series. So 4-star read. It is YA, so again, spice was really low. Alright, so those are the 5 books I started the month with and the 5 books that are in this vlog. I think that they were all successful, 4 stars and above. You can't ask for a better vlog. I think that's kind of the mood I'm in right now. I'm not really reaching for thrillers or mysteries or anything unless they are tied in with a romance or a fantasy. And I'm just loving reading right now. And I'm hoping that continues for the month, because January was a little hard for me to get into, but I think once I hit Onyx Storm and I just kept going because I was like, I don't want to put myself in a book slump, I think I'm in a good place now. So that is all for this one. Let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know if you're looking forward to reading any of these, if they're on your list. And let me know your thoughts. If you've read Credence, I'd love to know like overall thoughts on that, because we have a book club. That was our book club pick, and I have that in a few weeks, and that's going to be an interesting one to discuss. So let me know your thoughts on that if you've read it. And I thank you so much if you've made it this far for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.